Good evening. It's Peter Temple on Monday, December the 3rd, and this is the market update for Tuesday, September the 4th. So we have a closed market in the U.S. market anyway on Wednesday, and that's going to mess things up a little bit. I'm going to keep my schedule the same. And sometime in around Wednesday, Thursday, we're also looking for a top here. So just kind of keep that in mind. I want to take you through, I want to start with the big picture tonight and just give you an idea of how ominous this looks. Just because of what's happened. I mean, there really haven't been any surprises except that we took off to the upside further than I thought last night. But, you know, everything is, this is a corrective situation, and I'm going to show you that in ES. I just decided to take a look at the bigger picture. This is a daily chart of the S&P 500, and what we've got here is a great big A wave down, and now we've got this B wave with two big prongs on it, which is like a first wave and a second wave. And in any way I look at this, if you do the normal measurements, now we have another little wave here that I would sometimes measure from, which takes me down to 23.22. But if I measure this entire A wave, that takes me down to 23.97. So that gets us under 24. And if I was to even go down further and say, well, the C wave might be 1.618 times the A wave, that would take me all the way down to about 22.73. So anyway I look at this, we have a big wave on the downside coming. And so we really need to pay attention. End of the day, Wednesday, which of course we don't have a Wednesday, or Thursday morning perhaps. That's Andy Pancholi's turn date. So then we're going to get, as far as I can see, a very large wave to the downside. Now that depends on it doing a double top here, but I don't see anything else that comes up on my radar that is going to do. So let's go take, I just wanted to show you that, and maybe while we're here, we'll just go into take a quickie look here at the hourly chart in the S&P 500. So here is the ABC wave down, which was a zigzag, except that it came down to a double bottom, and that's what sort of lined this thing up here to give us a 5-wave up, because it kind of made this, well, this is already a 3, but this is where we're going. It looks like we're going to get this double top up here. Actually, I can take these lines off, which might make it a little bit easier to see. So I'm expecting another wave up here, and probably to do a double top and then to keel over somewhere around 28.18, 28.20, something like that. And that's pretty well the same in ES as well. So let's go look at the futures market. I didn't pull up the daily chart. I don't really think it's necessary. But here's the 60-minute chart here. And this, typically when you get these double waves, you get a 3 down, and then it retraces with a 5. Well, how you can tell that this is not an impulsive wave is a couple of ways. I've got this marked as an ABC. You could look at this and say, well, that's a first wave, second wave, third wave, fourth wave, and fifth wave. But the issue with doing that is that we've got this second wave that hardly came down anywhere at all, didn't even make it to the previous fourth, or B wave, if you're going to be calling this anything at all. You might call it even a fourth if we're going to change our look at what this might be. And it needs to come down, if it's impulsive, to 62%. You need to have a real 62% second wave. And the other thing is that this fourth wave, either one of these, because there's a couple of different ways to number this, I think this is the correct way, either one of these fourth waves did not come down, didn't even get down to the 23% retrace level, much less the 38%, which is down here. So there's and then you get into the subwaves, which give you even more grief. So this is what we have. It's a corrective wave, and we're just going to head down to the downside, and it's going to be a big wave down. So we're finally going to get that big wave. Not exactly the way I thought it was going to happen, but that's what I see. So we're in this, and I've got another little chart here. We're in what looks like a fourth wave right now. It came down in a very corrective manner, and I'm expecting one more little wave down here to around, probably going to fill the gap, I would think, to 27.65. And then turn around and head back up. It could come down a little bit further. because the first wave is way down here. There's a little spiky thing down at the bottom. If I go look at a 3-minute chart, this just shows you where we ended up at the end of the day. So we have this ABC wave down. Actually, I didn't put the C there, but that's what it is, I guess, because it's not finished yet. And then we, on the upside, this is right at the end of the day where we left off, we have this ABC to the upside, and you got a 3-waver here, and you got this overlapping wave here, so I don't know how much more corrective it could be, but that means we're probably coming down to 2765, which fills the gap. I'm not showing it on this chart, but that would fill it, and then it would head back up to about 2820, which is up here. So that would be a good trade to the upside. I mean, if you got options, you could put in get an option play on this, and that would be a very nice reward, and then we'd be looking for a turn to the downside, which will even be a much nicer reward. I want to go back to the 60-minute chart. I put a couple of things in here. You can see the RSI. We had a big wave. When this came down, boy, it decided to get really negative. It's down even though it's way up here below the previous fourth wave, so that's just telling you that the action is probably going to be to the downside on that. NQ, same thing. I don't really have it's doing sort of the same sort of thing, and I think we're talking about just above or around 7,200 here for the top of this wave. This even has one more wave in it on this wave up, which makes it even more corrective because it's got this ABC3 wave, which I had mentioned before, and then it's got kind of a 5-waver up here. And I might go back, except again, it's missing a second wave in here. It has one here, but I would call that a B wave. It just is corrective. There's no other way I can give that to you. And so I'm looking for a big wave down here to a new low. So it might surprise us how far this goes down. There's really not a huge restriction on it. It could go down quite a ways as a fourth wave and then turn around and head right back up and do our final fifth wave. So that's the U.S. market tonight, the way I'm seeing it. I think we will probably bottom in the morning here. Let me go back to my 60-minute ES. So I would think 2765 will be the bottom in the morning, and then I would expect Wednesday or Tuesday. Is that right? Yeah, Tuesday we'll start heading up. I don't know if we'll make it all the way, but that would put us actually Wednesday we could even start to head down. But I don't think anything's going to be super easy. This is going into the nighttime tonight, so I would kind of expect, and we had it sort of turned south during the night last night, so that almost makes this wave a couple of days, and it might take a couple of days to get back up to the top again. So that's the story in the U.S. indices. Let's go on. We had a problem today with TC2000, which is the program I use with the dark backgrounds. They didn't have a feed all day for the currency pairs. I'm going to go through them anyway, but I just wanted to alert you to that. Nothing much happened, and I'm just going to tell you where they are now and what I expect. So they're pretty well in the same place they were on the weekend. It just stopped at about 7 o'clock market time, I think, this morning. So that's a bit of an issue. Anyway, we'll go through it. Here is the 4-hour chart of UUP, which is the ETF for the US dollar index. And it really didn't move today, so there's not much to tell you here. In fact, I'll go in just to a little 10-minute chart. It just really kind of is going sideways. So this is, you could kind of call this a 5-waver. I think it's more like an A, B. This is definitely corrective, and a C. So I think we may get another wave to the downside here, and it may not go past here. I'm not sure, but I would think if we're going to come down, there'll be a little bit more upside in the U.S. indices, which is what we're expecting, but I don't expect an awful lot more. So we'll see what happens, but this just also says that there isn't very much that happened in the currencies. Most of the currencies went sideways, and I'm going to take you through what I see there very quickly. Here is the 4-hour chart of the Euro US dollar. As I say, it didn't move very much, but what I did, because we did not go up very high here, I've actually taken this which kind of looks more, I mean, it's always looked more like 5 waves than 3. So this has come out of the equation for this triangle, and it looks like it's just a very much smaller triangle and is going to give us another wave down. But right now, I'll show you what I'm seeing here. We got in a 30-minute chart, this is what I got for today. So it just didn't even register. So they're having some problems, TC2000 is, which makes this program with their feed, which they're hoping to get fixed, I guess, overnight. So maybe we'll have a better idea tomorrow, or I'm going to have to look for something else to give us a better graph than what we've got here, a better chart than what we've got here. Anyway, we are at... let me get back to my 4-hour chart. To the end of tonight, 1.3515, which is just about right here. So we're still in this triangle. Over the next day or two, as we end up with our top in the U.S. indices, I would think this is probably going to do a D wave and an E wave up in here. It really didn't do very much at all tonight. Going ahead to the pound U.S. dollar, this one tonight ended at just a little bit above here, at 1.2727. So it started to head down. That isn't telling me a whole bunch, but we still could get some, and it has been a little bit volatile, but in a very small area. So I'm still expecting this to head down, but that's where we ended off today. It hardly moved. The Australian dollar, same thing up here. We're at 7.7356 tonight at the end of the day, which is just a little bit in here. So this has got another wave up. I'm not expecting this to go more than probably to do a double top here, and then that should set us up for coming down. So it went up a little bit more with the U.S. indices, but all of these things are just heading to an extreme, a corrective extreme, by the way, because this wave up is corrective, in order for them to come down as the U.S. market comes down. So that's what I'm seeing in a lot of these. Going to US dollar CAD, I had mentioned I wanted to see another wave down. This is a 4-hour chart from US dollar CAD, and we certainly got that. Tonight it's sitting at about 1.3202, so just about right there. This did most of this on Friday and over the weekend, and we didn't get any movement. I mean, you can see the little spiky thing, 10-minute chart. Yeah, I didn't get anything here, so I think it went up a little bit and came down. I would expect this to come down a little more tonight. Let me get to my 4-hour chart and just do a double bottom here. And in actual fact, it came right down to, if you go look at the A wave here, to my extension, it might go down just a little bit further than that, because that would be a C wave of 1.618. But it's at the extension of 1.618 right now. So we might get a little bit more downside, but the next move should be to the upside as the U.S. market comes down. That's what I'm expecting. So everything is just, as I say, is kind of setting up for that move. Going over to the U.S. dollar yen 4-hour chart, this one is sitting at 113.61. This is an A wave, and I would be surprised if we don't get, now I didn't check this to see whether we actually did go down, but I would expect we come down at least to a double bottom here before we head up. I'm expecting, as I've been saying, that the drop in the US dollar will finally take us up to about 116 here on the top end, and that would be a high probability short when we get there. So that's what I'm expecting. So everything, I'm just not seeing anything that raises any concern to me in terms of what the currencies pairs are doing. They're doing what I expected them to do, and they're all set up for a big wave to the downside in the U.S. indices is what I'm seeing. So that's it just supports everything I've been saying. So I would expect we're going to get a big turnover in the U.S. indices sometime this week, and we're going to get a move up here, and then we're going to get everything to bottom, and we're going to get that fear that I've been talking about in the U.S. market. Fear for a long time, and then we will turn around and do a fifth wave, which should send US dollar yen down to that 94 level that I would, we've been waiting for forever, and that's the story in those. Now I've got the same problem with the gold and silver. They didn't do much today either, so I'm going to take you through those, but I do have a good chart for oil. Here is the 4-hour chart for gold. It left off last time I checked in, which would have been probably first thing this morning at 12:21, and it is at 1230 now, so it just hardly moved. And the same sort of thing with silver. It went up a little bit, but it is sitting at, right tonight, 1437, so it's just up in here. And it's starting to move. This, as I mentioned to you, is an A wave, and this is a very corrective B wave. So I am expecting a spike to the upside. I don't know how high that's going to go, but that would be the next major move as far as I'm concerned. So we may get a double bottom here, and the same thing with gold before this thing heads up as I'm expecting it to do when we turn down in the U.S. indices. That's all for gold and silver. Let's move on to oil. Here is the daily chart for West Texas Intermediate, so this hasn't changed at all. So we still have this wave. We did have a little bit of a spike, which you kind of expect if this is going to be a smaller fourth wave, and this has come up in a corrective wave. So I'm still looking for one more wave down, which would give us a final little subwave fifth. And then we head back up. So I think it's a little early to be positioning ourselves for a bullish move on this. This is the 60-minute chart here. I've kind of renumbered this as a 1, 2. That's the same, 1, 2. But this probably is a longer third wave because now I can see a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 as part of the third wave. So that looks like a third wave. This is up in 3 waves and may end up going to just a double top here. It could even go a little bit higher, but this is looking like a fourth wave now, and it's looking like we need one more fifth wave down to a new low here. I don't expect it to be a very deep one, but it looks, well, I mean, it could. If we get a lot of fear in the U.S. market and it comes down hard, we will very possibly get a good-sized drop here. But I'm really looking for, and this wave down is a 3. So I don't think we've started yet. This is not a first wave. I think we still need a double top here at least, and maybe a little bit higher before we get 5 waves down. And we should get 5 waves down here. So if you're going to play this, you should be able to count those as they come down. But it doesn't look like we have an ending diagonal. It simply now looks like this is a third wave to the downside, and this is our fourth, and that we have a fifth to go. And that's the story in the market. Everything seems to be, again, moving the way I kind of expected it to do. Maybe not the size of the move in the U.S. indices, but everything else seems to be following along, set up for another drop. And so that's what I am expecting. So we'll just watch this the next couple of days. I will be here in the mornings to let you know what I'm seeing. Obviously not Wednesday, but I'm still going to do the chart show on Wednesday evening, same time, and my normal reports during the week. So that's the story. Good trading out there. We have a big drop coming, and it should be a very lucrative one. Sure taking a long time to get there, but this is why I don't like fourth waves, and this is still comes back to this fourth wave thing, is that it is, it tends to be even between the bulls and the bears, so that you get these wild swings because it's the last sort of wave before we get a final wave up and then to a new high. And then the market is going to actually change in trend. And the volume is exceptionally low. So, you get this huge volatility, which is a real challenge. But as long as you stick with Elliott wave and you look for the signals, you'll know where and when it's going up and when it's going down. So we've got a little bit more work to do on the upside here, and then we should have a big wave to the downside. So good trading.